I'm Jean. I still can't believe what happened at my parents' dining table 3 weeks after my appendix ruptured. It was in front of the entire family, and the memory still haunts me. Let me take you back. I'm a pediatric ICU nurse in Denver, Colorado. I'm raising my daughter, Ava, on my own. She's 9 years old. 2 years ago, I moved back to Denver. The plan was to be close to family and let Ava have a relationship with her grandparents. Before Denver, Ava and I lived in a small apartment near the hospital in Boulder, where I worked night shifts. It was tough, but we managed. Then my mom, Carol, had a serious health scare. She had a bad fall and broke her hip. My dad, Tom, was dealing with his own issues. He had a heart condition that required regular check-ups. My older sister, Lisa, called me several times saying, "You're a nurse, Jean. You know what to do." So I stepped in. I found a job at Denver Children's Hospital, working 3 nights a week from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. I enrolled Ava in the local elementary school, just a few blocks from our rental house. And I started helping my parents. I drove Mom to her physical therapy sessions twice a week, which added up to over 50 visits in 2 years. I also took care of Dad's medical paperwork, making sure his insurance claims were filed correctly. It was like a full-time job on top of my actual job. My family always called me reliable. They said it at family gatherings when they needed a ride or when they needed help with a form. It was like a label, but I never asked for it. I just saw what needed to be done and did it. But here's the thing. Mom always had a soft spot for my niece, Emily. Emily is Lisa's daughter, 15 years old, a talented gymnast. Mom's phone was filled with pictures of Emily at gymnastics meets, competitions, and award ceremonies. Ava, on the other hand, had only a couple of pictures on Mom's phone. One was from a family picnic last year, and the other was a blurry shot from Ava's school play. Mom would drive an hour to watch Emily's gymnastics meets, but she never once came to Ava's dance recitals. Ava stopped asking after a while. It was heartbreaking to see her little face fall, but I told her that I loved her, and that was all that mattered. One Tuesday, I drove Mom to her physical therapy appointment. The whole way there, she talked about a big gymnastics competition that Emily was going to participate in. She was so excited, saying, "Emily has been training so hard. This could be her big break." She even showed me the tickets she had bought for the competition. They were expensive, $1,500 for 2 seats in the front row. That night, at work, I started feeling a sharp pain in my lower right abdomen. I thought it was just a stomachache, so I ignored it at first. But as the night went on, the pain got worse. By 1 a.m., I could barely stand up straight. My coworker, Sarah, noticed and called the ER team. The ER doctor, Dr. Patel, examined me and said, "CT scan confirms appendicitis. There's significant swelling, and it could rupture at any moment. You need to be in the operating room within the hour." My first thought was Ava. She was at home, asleep, all alone. I called my parents from the ER bed. My hands were shaking so much that I almost dropped the phone. "Mom, I'm in the ER. My appendix is about to rupture. I need you to go to my house and be with Ava," I said. There was a long silence on the other end. Then Mom said, "Tonight? But the gymnastics competition is tomorrow. I need to be well rested. And Emily is counting on me to be there." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Mom, Ava is home alone. She's just a kid," I pleaded. Dad got on the phone and said, "Jean, can you call a neighbor? Ava is not a baby. She'll be fine." I was in so much pain, and their words were like a knife in my heart. "It's 2 a.m. I can't call a neighbor at this hour," I said. Mom took the phone back and said, "Jean, you always figure it out. Just call a friend." I hung up the phone, feeling completely alone. Sarah, my coworker, saw the look on my face and said, "I'll call my cousin who runs an overnight care service. She can send someone to your house." In less than 10 minutes, Sarah had arranged for a caregiver named Laura to go to my house. It cost me $300 for the night, but I didn't care. All I wanted was for Ava to be safe. I was wheeled into the operating room at 2:30 a.m. Before I went under the anesthesia, I thought about how my parents had chosen a gymnastics competition over their granddaughter. When I woke up in the recovery room at 5:30 a.m., Sarah was sitting next to me. Ava is fine. Laura got there at 2:45 a.m. And Ava went back to sleep after a little chat, she said. I was relieved, but I was also angry. I reached for my phone and saw no texts or calls from my parents. The only message was from Lisa saying, "Mom said you had some stomach problem. Hope you feel better. Emily is so excited for the competition tomorrow." I was discharged on Saturday morning. Against medical advice, I drove myself home because there was no one to take me. When I walked in, Ava ran to me and gave me a big hug. "Mom, the nice lady made pancakes for me," she said. I sat on the couch, exhausted. I opened my laptop and started making a list of all the things I had done for my family over the past 2 years. I calculated the hours and the estimated value of my services. It was over 450 hours and more than $9,000 in total. I also found out that Mom had called my workplace. She told my supervisor that I was having an emotional breakdown and that I might be a risk to the patients. My supervisor, Mr. Thompson, called me and told me what had happened. I was furious. A few days later, I received a text from my aunt, Helen. She sent me a screenshot of a group chat between Mom, Lisa, and some of our cousins. Lisa had written, "Jean is being so dramatic about this. She's a nurse. She can handle emergencies. Now she's acting like we abandoned her." Mom replied, "She's always been like this, always seeking attention." But the worst message was from Mom. She wrote, "If Jean can't handle being a single mom, Ava can come live with us. It's only a matter of time before she burns out." I couldn't believe my eyes. My own mother was trying to undermine me and take my daughter away. I decided to take action. I called an attorney named Mr. Harris. He listened to my story and said, "You have a strong case for a cease and desist letter. Your mother's actions could be considered workplace harassment and an attempt to interfere with your custody rights." I hired Mr. Harris and provided him with all the evidence I had, including the spreadsheet, the group chat screenshots, and the Instagram posts. He drafted a cease and desist letter and sent it to my mother via certified mail. After that, I stopped answering my parents' calls and texts. I stopped driving Mom to her appointments and stopped handling Dad's paperwork. I needed to focus on myself and Ava. My parents didn't understand. Mom texted me multiple times saying, "Why won't you talk to me? You're being so childish." Dad left a voicemail saying, "Jean, your mother is really upset. Can we just talk about this?" But I was done. I had given so much to my family, and they had let me down when I needed them the most. 3 weeks after my surgery, it was time for our regular Sunday family dinner. I decided to go. I printed out all the evidence I had and put it in a folder. I wanted to tell my family the truth. When I arrived at my parents' house, I could feel the tension in the air. Dad opened the door, and his face went pale. "Jean," he said, looking shocked. I walked in, and Ava ran into the kitchen to see my Aunt Helen. Mom stood up from the couch, her eyes red. "Jean, come here," she said, opening her arms. I didn't move. "I'm not here for a hug, Mom," I said. The room went silent. I took the folder out of my bag and placed it on the dining table. "This is a log of everything I've done for this family in the past 2 years," I said, my voice steady. I started reading the details from the spreadsheet. I've driven Mom to over 50 physical therapy sessions, which is about 100 hours of driving. I've spent over 60 hours on Dad's medical paperwork. And I've done Lisa's taxes for the past 2 years, which would have cost her $2,400 if she had hired a professional. Everyone was silent, listening to me. I then told them about the night of my appendicitis. "When I was in the ER, in excruciating pain, I called you for help. But you chose a gymnastics competition over your granddaughter. You left me alone to deal with this." Mom started to cry, saying, "You don't understand. Emily needs me. She's at a crucial point in her gymnastics career." I looked at her and said, "Mom, I understand that you love Emily, but Ava is your granddaughter too. And you've ignored her for years. You've made me feel like I'm not important in this family. Lisa interrupted, saying, You're making a big deal out of nothing. You're always so self-centered. I looked at her and said, I'm not being self-centered. I'm just telling the truth. And I know about the phone calls you made to my workplace, Mom. You tried to ruin my reputation. Mom's face turned red. I was just worried about you, she said. I shook my head. No, you were worried about yourself. You were afraid that I would tell everyone what you did, so you tried to make me look bad. The family was in shock. Dad sat there, silent, looking at the table. Uncle Hank, who was also at the dinner, finally spoke up. Jean, we've taken you for granted. You've always been there for us, and we haven't appreciated it. I took a deep breath and said, I'm not here to punish anyone. I'm here to tell you that things are going to change. I won't be driving Mom to her appointments anymore. Dad, you'll have to handle your own paperwork. And Lisa, you'll need to find someone else to do your taxes. Mom looked at me, her eyes filled with tears. Jean, please don't do this. We're family. I looked at her and said, Family is supposed to support each other. But you've shown me that you're not willing to be there for me when I need you the most. I need to focus on Ava and myself. After the dinner, I left with Ava. As we drove home, Ava asked, Mom, is Grandma still mad at us? I looked at her in the rear view mirror and said, No, sweetheart. Grandma and I just need some time to work things out. But remember, I'll always be here for you. In the following weeks, things started to change. Mom's Instagram account went blank. She deleted all the pictures of Emily and the gymnastics events. Dad called me and left a voicemail saying, I'm sorry, Jean. I should have been there for you that night. Lisa hired a CPA to do her taxes. And slowly, my family started to realize the impact of their actions. 3 months later, Mom called me. Her voice was soft. Jean, I miss you and Ava. Can we have dinner together? I thought for a moment and said, Yes, Mom, but things will be different. We need to respect each other's boundaries. And so, we started to rebuild our relationship. It wasn't easy, but I knew that for Ava's sake and for my own, it was worth it. I learned that sometimes you have to stand up for yourself and set boundaries, even with your family. And in the end, true love and support will always find a way to shine through.